Hey, hi, how you doing? My name's Ben, and I haven't recorded anything or edited anything in over a week, and I feel like I'm gonna go crazy. I'm sure a lot of you know about this already because I made a community post that basically said that I had the flu, but for those of you who didn't see that post, yeah, I've had the flu for about a week. And I am feeling a little better. I'm not perfectly well yet, however, I have my voice back. Mostly. I'm mostly talking in this lower range because I know it's safe, because if I push my voice to different ranges, like for example this, my voice starts cutting out a little bit and I can't really control it readily and it sounds really bad. So yeah, if I sound kind of monotone today, it's not because I'm bored or uninterested in what I'm saying, it's because I literally have to talk like this right now. Just trust me, it's better for us both this way. Anyway, point is, I'm still a little bit sick, so I'm not super in the mood to be doing anything all that creative today, but I'm also getting cabin fever and I feel like I'm gonna go fucking crazy if I don't do something productive. So I figured, you know what, to get back into the swing of things, maybe I'll just do a really simple, lighthearted content style video, and so that's why I want to talk about the time that I almost died. I'm actually not exaggerating when I say that. I genuinely do believe that I could have died that night. So yeah, this incident happened almost exactly 2 years ago now. It happened directly after Anime Los Angeles 2016. So basically, Anime Los Angeles was the first convention I ever went to on the West Coast, and overall the convention was just a really great time. I got to meet a lot of my West Coast friends in person for the first time, which was a blast. And so yeah, the convention was great. The part that wasn't great was the drive to and from the convention. The total trip time from where I lived to the convention center was about 8 hours just to drive there and then 8 hours back again. And most of that trip was through the Nevadan desert, and I don't know if you've been in the Nevadan desert, but it is very empty. Now the trip to Anime Los Angeles went off without a hitch. I got there just fine, but on the trip back I made two key mistakes. Mistake number one was I didn't give myself nearly enough buffer time on my vacation. The way I scheduled everything out, I was going to be arriving home the night before I had to go back to work on Monday. So already I had to keep to that pretty tight schedule, and my second mistake was I didn't keep to that tight schedule. This was the first time I had met a lot of my West Coast friends and I was having a lot of fun, and so I understandably didn't want to go home. So I was planning on leaving the convention center early in the afternoon and arriving home late in the evening. It didn't go like that at all. I stayed way later than I should have. It was already sundown by the time that I was leaving, so it was probably like anywhere from 6 to 8 o'clock at night. Already I wasn't off to a good start, but I thought, you know what, I'm still fine. I've driven 16 hours straight in the past. I'm pretty sure I can handle this. And that's when it began to snow. I know this is going to come as a shock to some people, but yes, it does in fact snow in the desert sometimes. I still didn't think it was all that big of a deal though. It wasn't that heavy of snow, and I've driven in the snow before, and I had checked the weather reports before I started driving, and it said there was just a slight chance of a little bit of snow, so nothing to worry about. And for the first leg of the trip, everything went about how I had expected. I was making good time, but then I slowly started getting a little bit drowsy. I mean, don't worry, I wasn't falling asleep at the wheel or anything like that, but I was certainly feeling a little bit drowsy. And so I figured, you know what, I'm on a single lane highway and it's literally just me on this highway for as far as the eye can see. I'm just gonna call one of my friends and put them on speaker and hopefully have them keep me awake. And so they kept me awake for a little while, and you know, we shared some laughs for a little while over the phone, reminisced about the convention, talked about possible future cosplays. But then the first bad omen of the night presented itself. I lost signal. Not that that's all that weird. I mean, I was in the middle of the desert. It's pretty common to lose signal for hours at a time while driving through the desert. When there's no cell towers for just miles in every direction, you can't be too upset when you lose signal. But don't worry, this will become important later on. And then the second bad omen of the night, I started getting low on gas. Again, normally this wouldn't be a huge issue because one tank of gas should be enough to carry me the entire 8-hour journey, or at least most of the way, enough to get into town again. But I thought, you know what, better safe than sorry. In the very first gas station that I saw off the road, I decided to pull off and gas up. But at this point, the snow was slowly starting to pick up, so it was up to like a moderate sort of snowstorm at this point. So I looked around my car really quick to maybe put on a jacket or something when I got out to put the gas in my car, only to realize that, oh shit, I don't actually have any warm clothes with me. I had just come from a convention in Los Angeles, which is notoriously very hot with its weather year-round, and so in anticipation, I didn't pack all that much warm clothing. So I was out in the snow in my short sleeve shirt trying to get the pump to accept my card, only to find that the pump would not accept my card, and also that there wasn't a gas station attendant, so I was basically shit out of luck. But Ben, that's inconvenient, but it's not exactly life-threatening. You're right, but it certainly didn't help what came afterwards. The highway that I was on was closed off up ahead because of all the snow. You see, that particular highway cuts through the mountains that are between Nevada and California, and so the snow up there was much worse than everywhere else. And so I had to continue the rest of my trip on one of the side roads that didn't go through the mountains, which is where all of this started going downhill. Almost literally, because that's when bad omen number 1 came in. I didn't have cell signal, so the minute I left the main highway that I was on, the GPS signal didn't matter because I didn't have any maps downloaded on Google Maps, so I was driving blind. I still had GPS signal, so I could still see my little dot in relevance to the end pin on Google Maps, but I couldn't see any of the roads on Google Maps, and therefore Google couldn't recommend any roads for me to take, so I was kind of just having to guess which road to take as I came upon intersections. And as if that wasn't driving blind enough, soon I wasn't even able to see the road anymore. You see, at this point, the snow had picked up so heavily that I think it would be safe to say it was a full-on blizzard. The wind was blowing so hard that my car was literally rocking back and forth as I was driving. The snow was so incredibly high that I couldn't quite make out what was road and what was off-road. My only saving grace was that some of the roads had those little road stakes on the sides that would stick up out of the snow, and I was able to kind of guess where I was based on those. But yeah, overall I was driving blind. And then comes the point where I officially started fearing for my life. For the record, I know a lot of people are going to try and instruct me on how to drive on ice, and believe me, I know how to drive on ice. It wasn't gonna help in this situation. I believe the road may have been a little bit downhill, so while I was trying to correct for my lost traction, I just lost more traction and basically almost spun completely out of control. Luckily, I was able to brake to a stop before going completely off the road, but not before one of the road stakes on the side completely took out one of my mirrors. Actually, I think I still have that as a souvenir around here somewhere. Yeah, here it is. I don't actually have the mirror part of this. This is just the mount for the mirror. The mirror would sit here, but as you see, it got ripped off by one of the road stakes. I was very tired, so I did try getting out of my car and looking for the mirror that had come off. To no avail. When I stepped out of my car into the snow was up to my knee, so I'm not sure how I expected to find a mirror in all that snow. But nonetheless, exhausted 4 a.m. Ben was out in the middle of a blizzard searching around his car for a solid 10 minutes for this mirror, because I guess I thought I could fix this. But yeah, the mirror that connects to this mount may be out there still, to this very day. And part of the reason I say that I could have died that night was because a very short distance away was a almost sheer drop. As in, if my car hadn't successfully braked to a complete stop, I probably could have tumbled down that sheer drop. Also, it was very dark and very snowy and hard to see things, but I'm pretty sure at the bottom of that drop was a lake. So that also wouldn't have been all that great. So best case scenario, I may have tumbled down that drop, but maybe survived the tumble only to freeze to death out in the blizzard in my broken car. And worst case scenario, I could have tumbled directly into a lake and frozen to death faster. So maybe that would have actually been the best case scenario, quick painless death. But after that, I said, fuck it, I can't just sit out here. I gotta continue my trip. I gotta get home. I gotta get somewhere warm and safe. So I kept driving. The gas in my car was getting uncomfortably low, so I was constantly thinking, great, I escaped one tragedy, but now I might have my car break down in the middle of the desert during a blizzard and freeze to death. But then, as if by some miracle, I ended up getting 1 bar of roaming cell reception. My God, that's the most happy I've ever been to have 1 bar of roaming cell reception. My Google Maps didn't update though, and I think that might just be because I was too tired and delirious to realize I probably needed to turn on roaming permissions for Google Maps. But at this point, it was around 5 or 6 a.m., which meant on the East Coast, where my dad lives, it would have been about 8 or 9 a.m. And so I realized that meant that he would probably presumably be awake at this point, so I called him and I was able to describe the roads that I was currently on, and thank God he was able to find me on Google Maps, like the general area where I was, and tell me the list of roads I needed to take to get where I was going. So yeah, the rest of the trip was by no means easy, especially because I was getting more and more tired as I went, but at the very least I was heading out of the woods rather than into the woods. I was finally able to find a gas pump that took my card. My needle for my gas tank was literally below E, which was a scary fucking feeling. I was able to find some roads on the outskirts that I recognized that were able to take me back into my city, and I was able to get home, get warm, get into bed, and get to sleep. Just kidding. It was about 10 a.m. at this point, so I had to go to work. Mind you, I had just started working there, so I really didn't want to miss any days of work and risk getting fired. And so I showed up an hour late for work, an absolute exhausted mess, but I was able to truck my way through the rest of the day and immediately fall asleep in my car once work got out. It was probably the longest and scariest night of my life. I genuinely do believe that had things gone ever so slightly differently, I would not have survived that night. Anyway, that was my near-death experience. I hope you guys enjoyed, because at the time, I sure as fuck didn't. Anyway, I'm gonna go lay down now and hopefully finish getting better. And if I don't, I'm gonna need one of you to put me out of my misery.